Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Pit Against a Live Flesh and Blood Call-In Show. I'm joined by my constant co-host Kevin Smurf Murphy. Kevin, what's up?
What's up?
And we're also joined by introduce yourself, Nathan.
Okay, I'm Nathaniel. Most
Nathaniel.
people will know me as you can call me Nathan. No, everyone changes it. I'm ahead of the Clash committee.
Yeah.
Is kind of the best way to put it. Most people aren't going to really know who I am, to be honest. They'll just probably see me around on Twitter or a little bit in the Discord. But I will be honest, I've never even been to a Flesh and Blood event, so you wouldn't have even seen me around there.
Current sitting president and CEO of Clash.
Wouldn't say president and CEO, but yes.
Well, thank you for coming on. The normal spiel is Pit Against is a live call-in show. If you'd like to call in, if you'd like to be live on air talking to us about your take, join the Pit Against Discord by clicking on the link that's in the description. Join the waiting room channel. Put your hot take in the topics text channel, and if we like your take, we'll pull you in for a mic check and put you on air talking to Nathaniel and Kevin about. Well, okay, I have a interesting take or a reaction. Clash had bans recently.
Yes.
Clash banned one piece of equipment.
Yes.
It was a very surprise. Walk me through this. What could
So
you
Clash banned
possibly
one
ban?
piece of equipment for one hero.
Oh, is it just one hero?
It's just one hero.
I didn't know that.
It's just one hero.
I missed that bit.
Oh, that's spicy. Okay.
This was a tough choice. Like, this was hard. This
Yeah.
was I thought about this long and hard.
Yeah.
And then every single thought I would bring to the Clash committee. So the way that we have it set up right now is we have 7 members in the Clash committee. There's about 5 active at the moment.
Yeah.
And so before a set comes out, so in this case we have a Rosetta coming out, we let anybody who's on the Clash committee bring up, like, hey, what should we change? Should we change? Is there anything we want to ban? Is there anything we want to restrict? Like, what are we looking at? Clash runs in a kind of a special lane, right? Because it's commons and rares and specializations. There has been a hero-only restriction before. We have Rosetta Thorn is restricted only to Briar. We're doing some testing to see if we're going to remove that, but we did that because we found that Chain and Viscerai abused it way too much. And they were very they're very aggressive with it, right?
Very good.
And so we decided that actually this was just before the Clash committee was formed, so this was like the last decision I made by myself. So just to give kind of history, right? Saint started Clash a couple years ago. He ran it for a while. I was heavily involved with it from the very, very beginning. I'm actually going to tell a quick story. Saint, he might have had it already. I actually want to have an interview, talk with him. Like, hey, how did Clash come about? Like, did you come up with this? Like, was it already in your head? Yeah. But it started with Team Covenant. If you're not familiar with Team Covenant,
everyone's familiar.
Very, very popular. They did a Commoner stream, and they were playing, and it was a lot of fun. And I was way into Commoner at this time. Commoner it's a lot of fun. I love Commoner. But I always felt like that I wanted a little bit more out of Commoner, hence rares, because I was always like, hey, these Blitz decks are fun, but some of them are built awful, right? If you've ever played the Briar Blitz deck, it's the worst thing to play. So I just wanted more out of it. So anyways, on that stream, I was like, hey, it would be cool if there was a commons and rare format. And then there's like 10 people underneath it that said, yeah, that would be awesome. And then Mansay was like, I'm going to make it. So my claim to fame, my hidden story is I'm going to claim that I started it. I started the movement.
That's kind of cool. Okay, so I'm gonna answer a quick question and spoil the ending to the entire story. Jonathan Bowers asks, what is the ban? The ban was Kodachi only for Ira.
Only for Ira.
Only for Ira. Hank says he loves you.
Love you too, Hank, since you yelled at me last time.
Hank did yell at you last time.
So that's the spoiler, is that Kodachi got banned. But I actually do want to talk about the Clash a little bit more just while we're on the topic. My interesting how I was able to be a part of Clash was initially, very initially, was I was one of the biggest, loudest, most violent pushbacks to adding to a plus rares commoner format. Right.
Mhm.
So there was a lot of posts on Reddit that were just like, what if we came up with another format like I forget, peasant, and it was like only commons and rares, and I was like, no, the community's too small. If you divide it up anymore,
Agree.
that's terrible. And I was in every single Reddit post and a lot of Twitter comments being like, no, we don't need this. And then Mansant drops the list,
Clash.
which is actually Clash, which is not just commons and rares. It
Nope.
is specializations, uh majestic weapons,
Yeah, all weapons.
all weapons,
not equipment. All weapon. All
all
weapons,
weapons.
mentors, and specializations.
That felt like a very uniquely different and very flavorful format that I was very excited for, and I loved that.
So quick history on this actually. The initial before it went official, I actually pestered Mansant. I didn't really know him, but I pestered him. I was like, "Hey,
Yeah.
this is really cool what you're doing. I would love to like get a preview of it before it goes live, just to I want to start building decks, get them up on Faber." And he was, I mean, Mansant's smart, right? Like he teamed up with Faber. He got the deck,
Yeah.
to build it on there. I switched over to Faber just to build Clash once because I was on FabDB and I would not touch Faber because everything was on FabDB for me.
Yeah.
So he made a converter out of me into Faber.
Yeah.
But initially, it was going to follow. It was just a common plus, basically. So remember, common at the time, you could have 2 rare slots for equipment or weapons.
Yes.
That's how
Yep.
Commoner first came out. They have
Yeah, I
since
remember that.
changed that. So initially, it was going to be that with majestic equipment as well. And from the story I've heard from Mansant is that because he went to different content creators, is DR Armada actually said, no, that would make it too powerful. We don't want to do majestic equipment at all. And so that was actually removed before it went live. So there was some pushback
agree.
on that. I've
agree.
since wanted to add it, but the more majestic equipment they add to the game, the more I got it's not happening.
Savage Sash is like
Yes.
a recent addition that just I think it would be too much.
Yes. No, there's just there's too much power.
Yep.
Right now, and I'll just spoil this really, really fast, is we're actually working on a Clash adult version just to kind of live in that space. And what we've done is we've added in majestic equipment so that you can get like that extra power level. So we've
format,
yeah. So that's just like we've soft launched that. We're gonna launch that later.
That's
later this year.
I'm gonna have to ruminate. I'm gonna have to do on that one. There we go.
It's interesting. It's an interesting way to do it because it's kind of like it's a step up and then it's a continuation. One of the things is I have
more health. You're gonna need more to get through more health, or maybe some of the games get kind of grindy. I'm assuming, kind of not fun.
Mm-hmm. So it feels more like classic Fab, because if you look at a lot of the Majestics, those are the bombs, right? The ones that let you do those crazy turns.
Yeah.
When you don't have things like that, Skeletta's is actually legal and not overpowered. There's only one spot where it sits where it could go, that's the Viserai Special Sonata Phantasmia, I think it is.
Yeah.
So we've been doing a soft launch into that, just playing, having fun with it, and not really doing it official. But I've chatted with February. They'll put it up. They're just gonna put up the sheet for right now to see what kind of the reception is before they code it in. But I've also chatted with Talishar, and they're gonna add it in as an option.
Nice.
Those people are great. I love them.
Yeah.
So I think that's interesting. If I had the money, I would probably pay pro players to see if they can bust the format during some lull time between
we've been thinking about it
sets, because
end of the year
or between events, right? You want to hit them at an off time.
During a
but
skirmish
like,
season.
if you could convince, like, genuinely convince people who are really good at the game to dive in to see if they can break it, that would be a great testing for it.
Well, and interesting. So we soft launched it, so it's just in our Discord. So if you're in the BoldBrewGames Discord, which is essentially the Clash Discord, we've actually had some armories have started to put it in their rotation. Like I know of 2 or 3 at this point. One of them is actually in Russia because they don't have access to a lot of cards.
Oh,
So it's like their way of like, hey, let's get into this. Also, we've been talking about it in the Clash community for several months, so we decided to make it happen a month or so ago is when we did our soft launch. And it's more of it's also a selfish thing for me because I play Clash or Living Legend. Like I have a Lexi deck. I played Living Legend in the skirmish season. I miss my girl, so I don't play normal. And so this is a fun way for me to bust out Majestic equipment and buy the new decks coming out as like an excuse for me to play this stuff. And so it's more of like a personal thing too of like, hey, let me get out this old equipment.
Okay, all right. So,
but moving on.
Real quick. Just a reminder: if anybody wants to call in and talk to Nathan about anything, this is a call-in show, and you can call in by clicking on the Discord link in the description. But my question, which we touched on a little bit, is the Kodachi ban?
Yeah,
that's good.
So this is an experiment.
Okay.
I have been super hesitant because if we look at LSS, right?
Mm-hmm.
We look at everything that they've done and how they've set it up. They have been very vocal about the fact that they do not want to ban specific to a hero. That's something that they have explicitly said.
Yeah.
And I think many of us go like, well, why not? Why don't you want to ban a hero? Like that seems a little bit weird, right? Because this is a hero-centric game. So I myself, in the Clash committee have been trying to adhere to that. It doesn't always work well. Sorry, is there some spicy stuff in there?
No, you're good.
Who's the best drunk drafter?
No, yeah.
I can do a pretty good drunk drafter. I'm not gonna lie.
I can guarantee.
I'm sitting here with this pint.
I can guarantee I am the worst drunk drafter.
I may or may not owe Tommy a drink for.
Every time
call in,
do it. Every time, so whenever I sit down to Fab or talk about Fab for whatever reason, I have to have a beer with me. I don't know why. So Tommy Fresh and Fresh and Buds always makes me smile. So like I'll sit down and I'll draft and I'll have a pint like this sitting next to me while I'm drafting. I don't know. So, it's just like something.
So Kodachi's was interesting, right?
Yeah, sorry.
So like, okay, no, you're good. But I am trying to keep it a little on track. So in Clash, it felt like from I'm going to say a fairly outside perspective. I'm not in the Clash.
I don't know. You say outside, but like how many games have you commentated in the past 4 months?
A healthy amount.
A lot.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. True. I love commentating the Clash games. Those are very fun. But
like I think you have more insight into the format than I do almost at this point.
So it feels a little bit, or it did feel like kind of like a 2-horse race, right?
Mm-hmm.
Icelander and Ira and everything else felt like they were just trying to do what those were doing, or were trying to do their own thing and not as good.
Yes.
And in that sense, we've gotten a ban for Ira in the Kodachis, and I think that's really interesting because I was like, I was thinking like, what do you do to Ira? What do you do to Ira that really drops her down? And
we couldn't find a spot. We couldn't find a spot. That was the problem. So one idea was to ban what's the one in Tulare Community College set, the red one, the Thorns, whatever.
Bittering Thorns.
Yeah.
One idea was to ban that, but it just like while it's super powerful, it didn't have what we needed.
Yeah.
Like Critical Strike is the same.
Yeah, Critical Strike is the exact same card.
Not like exact. Well, not exact.
Well, it's just the +1 on the next attack at the 4. Like
it's you end up with a very similar play pattern
Yeah.
very easily.
Yeah. So there just wasn't a. But as we watched it, and you guys commentated a lot of them. You saw it. Like Ira can just block out, turn around, and do 1-2. Which, while you say 3 damage isn't very much, it's the fact that it's 1-2 every time. The way that it's split in a 20 health format, I could just do that and literally run you out of cards.
If it's a 2-card hand and you go 1, and then at worst,
Mhm.
or you could go 1-1-5 with critical strike, or 1-7 with
Brutal assault.
Brutal assault.
Any 2 for 6,
Any
humble,
2 for
wreck
6.
Yes.
havoc.
Yeah. It's good value while also just being really hard to hit breakpoints. And it does kind of all hinge around these 1-cost go again
Yes.
weapons.
And I can't just, and the thing is, you can't just straight up ban Kodachis, because we have a lot of, there's in Clash, right? It's all young heroes. So there's a lot more younger, there's a lot more ninjas in the format, right? So if I do Kodachis, we're hitting Katsu, we're hitting
Katsu's
Benji.
unplayable.
Yeah, Katsu's unplayable. Benji's getting close to unplayable. Like there's a lot of.
I think Katsu
rough
definitely
spots.
takes the brunt of that, right? Like,
Mhm.
what's his next weapon? He plays either the
Edge of Autumn,
the Needles. He could run Kakara.
Can he?
He can.
That's a ninja weapon.
It's a ninja weapon. It's not a mystic.
It is just a ninja weapon. It is just a ninja weapon.
It is just a ninja weapon.
It is not a mystic ninja.
So what that does, though, is it opens up all those can play it, but now she has to do exactly what you just said. Kakara.
Yeah.
Edge of Autumn. Because I really think, like, if you look at it, I really think she was designed with Edge of Autumn in mind, right? Because she was the first hero. That was her first thing. So she was designed as an intro Edge of Autumn sort of thing. So if you're looking at a 2-handed weapon on her, right, then you have to come in with that. You have to come in with a second attack.
Yeah.
Even the needles, right? You can break them. So she can do dual wielding, but they can get popped in there. So she's always got that kind of going for her. Whereas,
regardless, she has to like restructure her entire deck to play around whichever new weapon she decides to bring in.
Exactly. So
go ahead.
I was gonna say, so while I want to stick to what LSS, has basically set out and said, this is what we're doing. At the end of the day, this is not LSS's format. This is the players' format.
So I think
it's not even my format; it's the players' format.
So I think this is me not being on the committee, but this is more like a Reddit take or like a Twitter take. Is that you could have worded it? Kodachis are Katsu specializations.
We could have, and we could have gone down that route. But what that does, though, is that removes options from like Benji. Like Fi does want to run double sometimes. It removes it from Benji. It removes it from even Zen sometimes likes to run him. Although Zen is honestly Zen has access to all of the stupid combo that got banned, so he probably doesn't need that.
I don't know. It was really interesting, and it made me think a lot about it because, every time LSS would do a ban, like when they banned Autumn's Touch, it was really a thinker. Like every time you ban a common, it's like, whoa, I didn't even, it's not the thing that people think about. But I think it did. I think it's going to work well. So the second half of the entire statement is it was a 2-horse race. And one of those horses got Fendel's Fighting Spirit downshifted to common.
And Aether Quickening.
Aether Quickening.
Now,
obviously, in Clash, we can run those already, but in Commoner, I don't think it's actually going to affect Commoner as much as people think, just because she already had access to 3-for-7s.
Sure, but this is like this is a step up from the ones that are not woundable.
Yes,
because it's not just like it's the fact that it's like essentially one. It actually deals with Ira's Kodachis reasonably well because it splits its 3 block value, but then it also gets the 8 when you're attacking with it, which most of the cards you have to either choose whether you get the 8 on attack or you get the 3 on the block. Looking at Wounding Bull and Raging Onslaught,
Yeah.
So like,
Well,
Fighting Spirit was always like the one that like always did what you wanted, and it kind of split stuff up really nicely. Where even like Battlefront Bastion didn't do that as well, where you only got the one like floating when you blocked with it. You didn't get that value when you attacked with it. So like,
Right.
yeah, Icelander has it, but like this is just another point of value that she's going to get somewhere.
Yeah, I think it's gonna probably switch out like Raging Onslaught or whatever.
Yep.
You probably just switch out that. So like I don't think it puts her over the top. Aether Quickening, she doesn't really run that, so I don't know that it's really gonna affect her too much. She might pop it in, but I don't think it's gonna hit as hard as people say it's going to, right? Because in the Clash, like we've had access to all those, and I run them. I don't run Aether Quickening, but I run Final's Fighting Spirit. But I could just as well slot it out and go in with Raging Onslaught, and I think I'd be just as happy overall in a lot of the matchups. I think with Commoner, what it does is because Ira is the best deck in there, I think it puts her up on par with Ira. I think it makes her challenge Ira a little bit better.
Yeah, it gives her like 1 point extra in that matchup.
Yeah,
like Aether Quickening isn't a huge boost for sure. Because like it's the 1 for 2, like the blue 1 for 2 out of Arsenal is pretty efficient for like kill turns, but it's not great. It's not coming with the Frostbite like Aether Hail.
Yeah.
You're not able to get that full, because in Blitz at the end of Icelander's time there was the full Arcane one that ran Metacarpus node and everything, and would just present like 8 Arcane on her turn and then 15 Arcane on your turn, and just literally like mono red burn you out. And that's still just not possible because you don't have Striders and you don't have Metacarpus. So like it's probably not going to move the needle that much. But I think Fighting Spirit just gives her 1 or 2 points on average per game.
It does. It does.
That's a lot.
That can matter. That can definitely matter.
Well, when you're at max 20 health, that matters a lot. It really does, and I think it will come into play. I think it just brings her up to the level of Ira. Because if you look at the last Gold Foil event for Commoner, it was Ira versus Ira.
Yep. Yeah,
and it was just two really good players.
Yep. Yeah, we know Zoe and Nat. They're They live one city over from me.
Yeah, there you go.
They're really good.
They're very good.
So my next question is, how does the meta as a whole feel? Right? So Icelander, at least in Commoner, moving up to match Ira. Ira getting knocked down a little bit in Clash, probably getting closer to Icelander. If not,
I think so.
Icelander being a little better. But
I think so. Clash is in
does everything else feel? Like how does the full meta feel?
Yeah, so the full meta, because we have access to everything. Clash actually hits an interesting spot now, right? You get Ira, that comes a little bit lower, as you said, probably Icelander level. But we do have things like, so for instance, even before the new cards, I play a lot of Vincent in Clash, and I never struggle against an Icelander. I destroy Icelander left and right. Obviously I got new cards.
Yes.
I got fantastic new cards. I've already started testing it out. Like now it feels like a real deck and not just like I'm IPing myself every turn. Like it actually feels good. Losing that card to get that rune chant every turn actually is beneficial. Before it wasn't, but now it's like I'm always getting an aura, so I'm always having, you get an aura this turn, that's always on. I can always blow them up if I want to make more rune chants, things like that. Like there's elements in it that actually feel better in it.
Yeah, Vincent definitely got a lot of tools, and I think like one of the things that Vincent like in Blitz is going to be really scary, just because like her burst is going to be kind of nuts.
It's high. It's crazy.
I wouldn't be surprised if people just started running Ebonfold, the Shadowhead, just to put an extra card in Banish, because they're just going to double or triple.
I started doing that
the first turn.
Yes.
Like, it's going to be really scary what that deck can do now. When also just like, because people always look at Vincent and you're like, oh, you're an Intellect 3 hero because you have to put a card in Banish every turn. Well, it's like, no.
Not full.
If your deck is built right.
Yes.
Where you can always play that card. All her hero ability says is you commit to one card in your hand every turn that you have to play. You can't do anything else with it. And for that, you get a rune chant. But the turns you don't suck. The turns you make that work, you get extra value for it.
But she plays very rune bladey too, where she doesn't like to block a lot, despite like, hey, you think going tall that she would be able to do that. She doesn't like to block, just like most rune blades. So
like her 4-card hands where she banishes a card and has the rune chant carryover is a very straightforward hand of Mauve Skies rune gate the attack, pitch for another attack, and it works very fluidly. Even just like that Revel Flail is still a very good turn.
So back to the meta. You know, the question started with meta, and I went into events that but the whole point that I was making is these decks that can target like Icelander or things like that are really good against those specific heroes, but they don't, right? Like against the rest of the field, it gets rough, right? Some of them got better, or specifically Vincent got better. There's some other ones got better, or Wizard, right? So if we look at Kano is actually, I don't know if you guys watched it in the Kano games. Kano is actually decent in Clash. He just got a whole ton of new tools where he's actually going to play similar to how the CC is going to play now that they took a lot of those cards away. Other than, right, you don't have your Striders to kill them on their turn, but all the other cards are commons and rares that he's going to have to build around. So Kano and CC might get a little bit funky, but all those cards just made him better in Clash. And in Essence Commoner as well, right? There's some of those ones that are in common level that are ridiculous. And so we're seeing
commons.
There was a lot of really good commons. So I think we're going to see stuff kind of shift into classes that maybe people didn't touch before, and they're going to start testing them out, and they're going to start hitting those weak points again. And kind of the idea behind the ban of Ira was, and Ashen Wings pointed it out here, was we either had to ban Ira altogether or we had to do something specific to her. And I don't love the idea of banning Ira. We've actually had not my locals, but we have locals that come in, and there's a handful of people that will give us. We collect data on Clash, so they'll give us like their data from their armories and stuff. Because we have a handful of people that they run armories in Clash, and they'll actually get several, like 3 to 4 armories in a week will trigger. This is crazy. And so we collect all that data because I'm trying to collect data to just, I don't have data from LSS. I don't even have data from, I've talked with the Talishar guys, and they're like, we don't actually track that specific data. So we can't even give that to you. So I'm tracking data from the community and getting that in. And Ira is sitting at a comfy, like 87% win rate, right? Like I have a whole crazy win rate. And we don't, we're at like 3 to 400 games total that we're tracking. So like we don't have a big list, but it's like it's a good 20% above the next hero.
300 games total, not 300 games of Ira.
Not 300 games of Ira. 300 games, but we're sitting at like 100 to a little over 100 games, I think, around Ira, and she's still at 87%. It's not a lot of data, but it's like nobody else is even close to that.
Crazy.
And so
also,
there's
one thing that I think about for Clash specifically and Challenger is that most people coming to that format, it is a more casual format, and so a lot of people aren't playing it with the idea in mind that they're going to be super competitive, right?
100%.
So like they're bringing. I'm trying to think of they're bringing bets.
I mean, I'm bringing Vincent.
Vincent. I think Vincent might not be that bad, but I mean, like I could honestly see people.
Betsy, we had a player last season who loved Betsy.
Yeah,
they played Betsy all the time.
Sure.
So like that, and that's really the idea behind Clash is come with what you love to play.
Is what I'm saying.
Yes.
When Kevin and I were, I was like, Ira's really good. Maybe she's at like 55, 60%. And then you said 85. And I was, oh.
Yeah.
But some of that's probably inflated because people are going to just play their deck.
I mean, while you say that, yeah, but that's also coming from data. So, we've had a couple communities that have outright banned Ira from being played in their Clash events because she was just so good. And so that's including data from places where Ira is banned. She still has that high of a win rate. Like just from leftover from different stuff. And then we have, that. But like, look at the Clash Bash, right? Yes. The only 2 players brought Ira. They both bought Ira and Icelander, but only those 2 players bought Ira. And both of those players made the finals.
Yeah.
And that was sort of 2 players just got in. We had literally a mirror match, which we've never had before. I don't think I've even had one in individual games, like where we do a best of 3 in individual games. And so the fact that is obviously people are who are trying to try hard, they're going to do that. But this is just kind of us trying to get in there and make it so that you can play your favorite deck.
Yeah.
Without having to be like, well, Ira, this person loves Ira. He's just going to come in and spike the spiker tournament or whatever. So that it really was just we're kind of forced into this.
Yeah.
And those communities that banned Ira have unbanned her. They're playing with her again.
Good.
So
and I think that makes sense too. Like okay, so one thing I talk about this a lot on Twitter is that I don't understand how people get so tore up about their locals, and I haven't been around, but people get really tore up about meta decks and their locals, and it's like for my locals in particular, they're pretty strong. We got Mara.
I mean, you even have Mara. I was gonna say you got Mara in your locals,
and we have Tim who tests with her regularly. A Blade Gaming Store champion, Tim, and then we also have a bunch of other competitively minded players locally. Like they want to win on their deck.
Our PQ scene is crazy.
Yeah, our PQ scene is crazy because we get people coming up from
crazy.
North Carolina, from other parts
we have the
of
North Carolina group, which is Taylor Crawford, Aaron Grace, Lucas Bannigan, all those people who are all PT Day 2 competitors. And then from the Charlottesville area, we have Merrick and Sam Young and a bunch of them. And Merrick is Merrick Kemp. We get the Tennessee
sometimes.
Yep. Do we get our PQ scene? So we haven't had one here in like a year or 2.
Yeah.
And we're finally getting it back. A buddy of mine has actually opened up a store in Pensacola. I'm going to shout out Trinity Games. But they used to come over to me. I live in Mobile, Alabama. So they used to come over. It's an hour drive. So they would come over and play with us.
It's not bad.
And we would get the card guys would come to our Pro Quests.
Yep.
Like Josh Lau has won a couple of our Pro Quests. Like
that's cool.
So like because there's nothing in our area. So like now they got it in Pensacola. If you look at the map, there's nothing within like 4 hours. So like when this happens, we're gonna get a lot of stuff like what you're just saying.
We're getting the card guys now that Nathan and Aaron are in the card guys.
Taylor.
Yeah, Taylor. The other Crawford. The other Crawford.
Mm-hmm.
Crawford the second. The point I'm making with all of this is that even with such a competitive scene, we find weekly on an armory basis that like no one brought Zen.
Yeah.
Like at all when he was a problem. They either didn't want to play him, or let's say one person brought Zen. That's 1 out of 6 to 8 people.
Which is hilarious because
and if Tim decides to bring Zen, then he can win the armory, and everyone else has a good time watching him.
Yeah,
and that's fine. And no one.
And then he doesn't. About it. And then he doesn't play it next week.
Yeah,
because he doesn't want to.
So like, I don't know.
Well, I really think the Zen players don't love playing Zen. I think there's a handful, but like when Starvo was in there, we had a couple Starvo players on our local scene. And it was because they genuinely loved to play Starvo. It wasn't just, this is the best deck. It was, I love Guardian. I don't want to play Oldhim. I'm going to play Starvo.
The pitch stacking on Starvo was actually super interesting.
Yes. The pitch stacking in it, you can do it once again in Brawl. Because he's illegal in Brawl. It's really fun. It actually feels fair because you don't have dual... You don't have all your pulses and stuff.
Is Brawl the
you
name?
have Winner's Whale, right?
You do, yeah. Winner's Whale is legal in Clash, though, too.
Holy frick. That's interesting.
Winner's Whale is a lot of... So, actually, one of my favorite decks is an Oldhim, Winner's Whale, Ice Wolf into Pummel. Nothing is better than
Oh.
Ice Wolf into Pummel.
Oh, good.
You know what's a
So
really
good.
funny card in Starvo, which I guess is not Clash legal?
Mm-mm.
Channel Lightning Valley.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that would be fun. And Living Legend, that will be fun.
Oh my! Wait, how much does that card block for?
Just 2, I
You
think.
don't care?
Oh,
Yeah,
okay,
you're not
fair enough.
blocking with it.
True.
What? Why are you blocking with it?
I don't know. I'm just, you know, you know me. I have a shirt with the defense logo on it. Like that's my first thought
Yes.
process.
Yeah, but you get a
so-
dominate attack with go again every turn, and then you get a hammer on a breakpoint with a frostbite
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and Channel
No,
Lightning
we're-
Valley.
Whoa,
Yeah.
that's really good.
Yep.
Okay, so
another fun thing. So I'm just
Yeah.
gonna do a shout out real quick. Another fun thing we're doing with our Brawler Clash Adult is we've made Majestic equipment all legal. All Majestic equipment is legal. Doesn't matter if it goes in your deck.
wait, what? Wait,
Yeah.
what? Wait, what?
So that's all the-
Majestic equipment is legal. Doesn't matter if it goes in your deck. A construct turns into a Majestic equipment. So Max is a hell of fun.
Oh, that's what you. Oh, I thought you were trying to tell me I could bring like warrior equipment and as guardian. But no, what you
No.
mean is evos.
Evos, all Evos and constructs because they
okay,
turn
that makes
into
much more sense.
equipment.
Construct Nitromechanoid.
It is technically
Contract.
a piece of equipment.
It is a piece of equipment. Construct Mechanoid, also Teklovas. And so the reason why we did that though is number one, there's too many mechs. We got to make them different. Number two, I know a lot of Teklovasan players that just love playing Teklovasan that I was like, oh, we'll do this for them. Here you guys go.
Yeah, we got a local Max player. That would
So-
probably be excited about that.
We've done some stress testing on that, and so far it's been okay.
Okay, that's good. That's interesting.
But that's a
Teklo is
fun way.
definitely a potentially scary hero for like
Oh, yeah.
similar reasons as like Oldham. So
Yeah.
So that is interesting.
That's super fun. I see a call-in topic.
Oh, there's a
Doggy
call.
rocks.
I think we'll get to that one next week. The next thing I wanted to talk about, unless Kevin, you had something.
Nope.
Talk about
I'm
Rosetta.
always impressed at how you guys can stay on top of this. Because you got
Well,
like
I'm not having a
codes and-
pint right now.
Yeah, right. This is a 7% too. We got a. So me and a buddy of mine who started the game shop. We had our we had a channel for a little while called Mean Mugging Games. And so we'd always start our show off with, "Hey, what are you mugging?" was our slug. So sometimes I have a coffee, sometimes I have a beer, whatever.
So Rosetta is not out.
It's out
It's out?
Came out
releases-
tomorrow,
releases
technically.
tomorrow.
It releases tomorrow. Rosetta
Yeah.
is not out yet. But we've gone to the pre-releases.
Good night, Hank. Hank's going to bed.
Good night, Hank. We've gone to the pre-releases. We've held the cards in our hand. You get to go to the
I
pre-release?
didn't. So I
No.
was going to go to the pre-release, but then we planned a birthday vacation for my son. So we
That's
went to the Great Wolf
completely
Lodge,
fine.
and I went down water slides instead of a pre-release. So I think I might have won on that one.
No, yeah, that sounds great.
But I have been doing some testing on Talishar and stuff with some of the new
Yeah.
cards.
The only excuse I won't take is no excuse for not attending a pre-release, because you should go if you can go. They're really
Yes,
fun. And
they were
so,
blast.
Kevin, you've got to have your hands on the cards for more than that, because you also got to go to the premiere.
Yes.
How do you feel now that we're a little bit further into it? How do you feel about the set? From mainly more of a limited standpoint?
Oh, Hank, I wasn't in Florida, but yes.
So this I've only been able to draft this set once. I will say that draft and sealed feel wildly different.
How does it compare to previous sets? Just curious. So I just getting ready for this. I have a case of Aria sitting over there. So we opened up a box and we drafted it and had a lot of fun with it. Everyone else that I was playing with literally had never drafted Aria before.
Wow.
And
I haven't either.
so they had a lot of fun, and they're reading the cards. They're like, "What's going on here?" I turned out to be the So right. I was also the only Alexi at the table, so I got a lot of good stuff. I was going to ask you, how does it compare to Arya? But if you haven't drafted Arya, then
so my question, I guess, would be, how does it compare to Monarch? Because it has the same kind of draft square structure. Because in Monarch, it's Shadow Light, go big, go wide, and in this set, it's Earth Lightning, Runeblade Wizard.
Runeblade Wizard. So they leaned much more into those 4 lanes than they did in Monarch, because Monarch you have 6 or 7 hero specific cards that are Shadow Brute cards, Light Illusionist cards, Shadow Runeblade cards, or Light Warrior cards, where they're cards that are only playable in one of the 4 heroes for 6 or 7 of the pack.
And
there are no cards at common rarity that can be played in less than 2 heroes.
Yeah, you're right.
Wow.
Which is
that's
great.
it weird.
But it also makes drafting much more. They put this draft somewhere between Mistveil and Bright Lights.
Okay. Well, Bright Lights was a good draft too.
Bright Lights draft process, the actual process of drafting your deck, was fantastic. It was amazing. It was so good because you always had a choice to make until there were unless there were only 3 yellows left in the pack or something, you always had a choice that you could make in that pack.
Hitting on the yellows.
You didn't want them. They weren't good.
I know. Nobody wants yellows.
Yellow
it was so there was. I only got to draft it once. I plan to draft it a lot more potentially this weekend if that's what people are willing to do. Also at DC, I'm planning to draft that whole weekend if I can.
Does it?
And then,
I think one of the questions I have, because you made a very, I think definitely an astute observation. I think I didn't realize it, but I know some drafters have, is obviously the square, right?
Yep.
My how much do you actually stay open at the beginning of it, right? Because you are picking, right? You have Light or Earth, or you have Wizard or Runeblade, right? And at the beginning of the pack, you're going to be picking one of those lanes. And while you could maybe pseudo stay open and either have Earth, you're either doing class or talent, does that actually feel like you're staying open? I guess is kind of where I'm going at it.
You can stay reasonably open. So in my pack 1, I took a Red Lightning form, pack 1, pick 1, and then I get past there's an Earth card missing, and there's 2 Red Lightning cards, and I'm like, okay, so my right is probably in Earth, and it just kind of stayed that way, where it was Earth was just a little more picked through than Lightning.
Yeah,
and the element cards went faster than class cards.
Interesting,
because there was never more than 4 of them in a pack, I think, at common at least. While there's 5 or 6 class cards in a pack.
Okay.
I believe is the way the pack breaks down. I'm not 100% sure on that.
So you're going to want to pick out the best element.
Elements are easier to send signals with.
It's also, so with most of the class cards, they block 3, which, we're going to talk about blocking, but the class cards block 3, the element cards block 2. Which implies... Usually, which implies that you do not want to be blocking with these cards. You want to be playing them. So you have to get the best element cards before you get the best class cards for that reason.
Yes.
I did find it really interesting, though, how there's truly only a couple, hero-specific cards, right? You get the meld cards. And that's it.
Yes.
I brought up Monarch earlier, but Monarch even still feels probably a bit more like Welcome to Wraith than this set. Because
it does.
Monarch has a lot of this card's for this hero, this card's for this hero.
It has Warrior, Brute, Ninja. It has 7 in Unlimited, and I know because I've opened at least a case of WTR Unlimited. There are 7 class cards at common in every pack. And it's very easy to use that to signal because one of them starts at 1. And if you take the 1, you're like, I'm in this class. Go away.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's one warrior card. You took the warrior card.
Yeah.
Well, and
people
also if
you
you
two
took
are like,
one that
you're-
had 2, and then they get it, and they're like, oh, well, there's 2 classes here
Well,
that
there's
one
2
card.
at
They
one.
took one of them.
Yeah, there's 2 at 1, and these are both bad cards. They're in one of them,
Mhm.
and the other one was good.
Yeah.
So like that's interesting there. I think there's also a piece of that with the elements where both sides of it, both lightning and earth, are very dependent on finding their element cards.
Mhm.
You cannot function in earth unless you have decompose, or unless you have earth cards.
True.
Usually, there's an asterisk I'm going to put on that for earth.
Usually.
Yeah, because
Lightning
the
has to
finals
have-
they didn't decompose.
Yeah, Lucas did not decompose in 2 of his games in top 8 as Florian because he had a yellow decompose and a blue decompose.
Yep,
He didn't need to. The lightning heroes, you have to have lightning cards. If you don't, your hero is textless and like
Your
you're not
weapon
going to do
is
anything.
Probably
But-
useless. And
Yeah, but like you're not as dependent on having like really good Runeblade cards for Aurora or really good Runeblade cards for Florian. It's nice.
Yep.
But you can kind of skimp on those a little bit more. Giving up like your premium red earth cards or red lightning cards is a much bigger hit to your deck and its consistency, is my understanding at the moment.
Mhm.
Given also how sealed went. If you
True.
just don't have the red lightning cards, you can't really justify playing a lightning deck in sealed. Like I opened a pool with 4 red lightning cards in it.
I had a
can't-
really close game.
I'm
in
not doing
Sealed.
it.
Yeah, I had a really close game in Sealed against a newer player to Flesh and Blood who decided to build a sealed pool of Verdants, and it was a
Mhm.
really close game. And it was on turn 2 because I also drafted Verdants. It was on turn 2. I played a wizard spell, and they go, "Huh, wait." And then they pick up Verdants and they go, "Oh, it's an Earth Wizard." Oh, so
Oh,
they
yeah.
used of their sealed pool only Earth cards at pre-release, and that was a close game that I almost lost. And they played nothing but generics and Earth cards. So,
Wow.
yeah, they're pretty good. They're pretty
Well,
good.
I think those big heavy attacks, right?
Yeah.
You get Fiendals, Finding Spirit, all of those.
Mm-hmm.
Those are so good and limited, right? We have the
Yep.
same thing in Clash and Commoner. I like to explain, especially Clash. I like to explain to people that Clash is basically like if you had the most perfect draft.
Yeah,
It's kind of what it is, right? Because
pretty much.
Yeah.
it's like if you had the perfect draft that you ever wanted, that is
Yeah.
a
It's
Clash
draft
deck.
equipment. It's
Yeah.
Draft.
yeah.
It's been actually really fun with and I'll go back to my point. It's been actually really, really fun with the draft equipment, especially because like this new equipment, this set is like 100% draft equipment, right? There's no blocking with it. Like you're not using that stuff outside of draft, and it's been really fun taking those pieces and trying to fit them into budget decks because there are actually elements to them that I want in my budget deck. Like we talked about Vincent. I'm using 2 of the new pieces in here. They don't block worth shit. I wouldn't use them in anything else, and it's actually really cool. Like taking stuff designed for limited and trying to fit them into these budget decks.
You
But-
should not be surprised to see the earth equipment in classic constructed decks.
You are right, actually, because like those feet are amazing.
They are very good.
Yeah.
Those
Well
feet, like
as
just
the
block
earth
2, and the helmet, right? Look, you get 2, but like, and honestly though, with the helmet, it's what you block. You can block 2. What's its other ability? Is it just block 2?
It's just Blade Break, and it's base 1 +1 if you have 4 more earth cards
Yeah.
in Banish. So it's what ends up happening is like you decompose twice.
Oh, right,
and
because you
these go
use that
online,
to. Mhm.
and you instantly fill your grave for your 3rd decompose.
Yes.
And
I
it's
was gonna say, like,
just-
why would you? In my head, I was going, why would you use that over any other helmet? It's an Earth helmet.
Yeah, it's Earth helmet.
It is Earth helmet and Earth
it's
legs,
really
and
hard
you
to
instantly
discard
have your
your-
2.
And it's really hard to discard your seeds.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's true. Those are
Unfortunately,
pieces I
no
think you'll see.
seeds.
So
But I think-
those are going to be in CC.
Yeah, I think you're right. The feet are just nuts. Like just block, prevent 2. Just prevent 2 in your turn. Not
Real-
even prevent 2, target something, like just prevent 2.
Floating
Real
2
quick,
prevention, better than any Guardian boots
yeah.
you've ever had.
Real quick, back to draft. What?
Yeah.
Because I think we're gonna probably wrap up around here.
Mhm.
The last question I really have is, what do we expect draft pods to look like by the end of them? Is it going to be 2 of each hero? Is there going to be 3 Florian? Like, what does a healthy draft pod look like? Like, everyone feels pretty good about the draft leaving it. What does that look like?
So I will say it's going to be closer to an even 2 split than most people think. And that's because the Earth heroes power down so much more in draft. You have 3 packs of Earth cards per person rather than 8, which means your consistency of like power cards is way lower, which means the lightning heroes can do way better, even with kind of middling, with what you would say are middling decks if you looked at sealed decks. I think the piece that people are really going to have to wrap their head around is your draft deck is not going to feel as good as your sealed deck. Your sealed deck is on average going to be substantially better than your draft deck.
The 8 packs, you have so much more at your disposal.
It's super consistent in sealed now. Not super. It is significantly more consistent than it was with 6. And it's also just like you're at a draft table. Like people are making choices around it as well. I think any table that splits 6-2 on either of those like sides of the square are something went wrong.
Yeah.
I would not be at all surprised at the end of it to see 5-3s though for Earth Lightning, or Runeblade Wizard. I think 4-4 is what you should expect for Runeblade Wizard.
Yeah.
And 4-4 will be very healthy for Lightning Earth, but I wouldn't at all be surprised to see like a 5-3.
That's it. I think we're gonna see. I think it's gonna be 3 Florian, 2 Verdance, 2 Aurora, 1 Acilia. I think is what we're gonna see normally.
Yeah.
I was thinking 1 Acilia or 1 Verdance, right? So like with 1 Verdance, the Earth doesn't dry up super hard. Is having 2 Acilios in the draft pod too much?
I think because Verdance always gets amp, right? Acilio has to work to get amp, so Verdance always gets amp.
Yes and no. Exploding Aether helps Acilio a lot. Just having 1 copy of that in his deck is huge. I will say this is something that I think Lucas Oswald in particular has talked about from Runaways. Acilio has cards that he wants to play significantly more than any other hero at the table. Most Aurora cards can go into Acilio or can also go into Florian. Almost every Florian card can go into Verdance or Aurora pretty comfortably. Yeah. And all of Verdance's cards can either go into Florian or Acilio. There are cards that Acilio uniquely wants to play, and I believe the ones that he pointed out pretty correctly are Flash.
Yes.
He uses better than Aurora significantly.
Yep.
And Open the Floodgates significantly better than Verdance, which is the 2-cost 3 arcane surge draw 2.
Yes.
That one's crazy.
He uses that significantly better.
I think if you get 1 of those or 2 of those, you go Acilio.
When
you get your hands
potentially.
On them.
If you're in Lightning and you're getting past those, you probably should be in Acilio. But also like you're gonna get cards on picks 5 and 6 that you should not be seeing passed around the table, like Comet Storms, because people don't want to play Acilio. I wouldn't be surprised if like it is kind of an even 25 win rate across the board at PQs, except Acilio's play rate is like 2/3 of everyone else's.
Yeah,
I think so. If you look at it too, like look at like the Dev Talk, for instance. I think we probably all watched that, right? Where they talked about, hey, we think that this, the premiere went about how we did in draft, where a lot of us started out going into the Earth Heroes, winning with those, and then as we continue drafting, found more depth into the Lightning Heroes. And I think we'll see a little bit of that. Because I think when you look at like Lightning does tricky things. Right? If you look at Lightning, you look at, like if we break down, and one of the things that Aria is my favorite set. And so I was really excited for us to go back to that. And I love how they developed out, because let's look at it like Ice was just better. Ice was just the best, and out of Aria. Because Lightning was, oh, you go again, but then Briar gets a hold of it and like, screw Lightning, we don't need Lightning.
I'll play
And then-
generics.
Yeah, we'll just play generics. And that always bothered me. I'm not gonna lie, that always bothered me. And then you look at Earth, and it's just like, hey, we just hit tall. It's like, well, that's stupid. You're just a Guardian, just not as good. And so I love how
Guardian. You're
right.
Oldhim.
Right, but if you're drafting,
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
you can. That's why the Briar Blitz deck sucks so much, because it's an Earth deck, and it's like she doesn't go tall. What are you talking about? And it's just a go tall deck. So seeing these and seeing them fleshed out, those two elements that needed to be fleshed out more, is really, really cool to see it in there. And I was always team Lightning. I'll say that. Like, I always wanted more Lightning stuff. After once this cards got spoiled, I was like, Earth is actually really cool. I think I'm Team Earth. But where I was going with that is, I think what's happening is that people are so used to playing Briar, which is very much a go wide. But Lightning now is way more trickier, where you're bouncing cards back to your hand and doing tricks like that, where we're not used to doing stuff like this, right? There's all these little extra, almost wizard-like tricks that we're just getting in Lightning, where I can bounce stuff. I'm getting extra instances. If I play an instant on this, it gives it go again, like just in that chain link, which will then give my next attack +3, right? Like, we get stuff like that. We get stuff I can block with 2 cards, bounce them back to my hand. And so I think what's happening is, number one, nobody saw all these cards before this past weekend.
Yeah,
so they couldn't get used to that style. And I think what we're going to see is Lightning winning more in there as people are figuring out these tricks in there that they're able to do more. Because I mean, I look at it and I go like, there's some crazy stuff in here that I'm glad they did, like a FAQ thing on the day, because there are some things in there that I didn't realize you could do in there, and how you style it and the order you do things, that you have to know how to do that in Lightning now.
I think adding this, like, I'm going to keep calling it blink, like for Magic, these blink mechanics where you bouncing cards back to get flicker, getting effects like this. I think that's actually really flavorful and interesting in Lightning. And I'm glad they did it. And it actually makes me more excited now that we've had a set on just Lightning and Earth. When we have the mono ice set, I'm very excited about it.
I don't think we're going to have that for a little
wraps it up. Kevin, do you have any shout outs?
The Patreon.
Oh, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/thetablepit. And we also have a merch store, which is going to be linked in the description of the video version of this, where you can get shirts, not like this one, because it says Red Zone Rogue on it.
I have to say, I was looking at your tower shirt. It was cracking me up, and I was like, I might have to get that.
There's actually a lot of shirts on there, and I'm really liking them. I'm making more too. I have a lot of fun with it. But Nathaniel, thank you so much for coming on.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm sorry, I feel like I took it over. I didn't mean to, but I appreciate you guys having me on.
It was the whole point. And I think chat really enjoyed getting involved in the takes as well, talking about the formats. So
not enough. I love Goblin Reserves. I didn't see that until now. Yeah. Every Fab format has one glaring flaw: not enough goblins. There is this crazy UPF format where you create your own hero that I feel like you could probably build a goblin in.
There is at least one goblin card in generic that you can play in every deck, should you want to. But Nathan, do you have anything you want to shout out?
No, I just want to thank you guys, because you guys helped a lot. So I will shout out. I run the Clash Hub, and we run Clash games. So every release, every set release, a week after the set releases, I think it usually starts on a Sunday is what we usually do. So this one, it will be September 30th. We do a online Clash League, 1 game a week, just best of 1, keep it super chill. And so we put some of those games up on the Clash Hub. And then when we hit top 8, we hit best of 3, which is a lot of fun. We're actually changing that up this time, where we're gonna have people bring 3 decks. You each ban 1. And you get to run 2, and you only play with 2.
So the
best format.
Yes, I might sign up. Holy frick!
So that's the top 8.
if I can cut out another emotionally charged portion of my life for Flesh and Blood, then I will be joining that. That's very exciting.
So we're switching that. So
if
I just want to
somebody,
say, check that out,
Yeah.
and then listen to these guys because they commentated, and I'm sure they'll commentate more.
I'm excited to commentate more. If someone wanted to get involved in that, where would they get a handle on you or on the league or on?
Yeah. So we have a Discord, the BoldBrewGames Discord. I can send you a link so you can drop it in the description.
I'll try
Because
to remember
I
that.
know you're not a part of that.
No, I'm.
No,
I'm
you're
not.
not.
Am I not?
It's okay.
Oh,
No, it's
fair
okay.
enough.
I will tell you this. So
I'm
I
in the
didn't.
Discord.
Are
I'm
you?
in the
All
Discord.
right. All right.
The Table Pit isn't, but I am.
No,
I don't
okay.
think the Table Pit has a Discord, but I have
That's
a
true.
Discord. So.
I will drop the secret. So I didn't know about our casual fab Discord until like a month or two ago when you invited me. Someone invited me, and I was like, why didn't I know about this whole time? Because I would have absolutely contacted you several months ago when we started this Discord to be like, hey, can we put a Clash in there instead of making my own Discord? But now we're beyond that. But you can also look me up. I'll be Nathaniel BoldBrewGames in a lot of these Discords, so you can always hit me up.
Yeah.
I'm a huge proponent of the Table Pit. I love it. So check out if you're not part of the Casual Fab Discord, become a part of that because it's a lot of fun.
That'll already be in the Discord link, or that Discord link will definitely be in the description. I will try to get Bold Brew in there. If you remind me, I'll definitely do it. And that's BoldBrewGames for anyone wondering. So I guess thank you all so much for watching. Bye.
Bye.